Hello and welcome to Monkeys with Fire. You join me tonight on another exclusive interview, and this evening we will be talking to Marcin Welnicki, the creative director of Into the Unknown Studio. If you are brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the latest miniature painting and tabletop gaming videos. Also, don't miss the live Twitch channel weeknights Monday to Thursday from 7 o'clock BST. Click the link below. And now, on with the show. 3 years in development, Aeon Trespass Odyssey is Into the Unknown's largest project to date. It is an epic 1 to 4 player massive campaign game of adventures, exploration, base building, and fierce tactical battles with giant monsters. It is a fully cooperative, choice-driven board game played over multiple sessions with over 200 hours worth of unique game content, over 1,500 cards, a novel's worth of narrative, and a slew of awesome miniatures, some 6 inches tall. It is a unique experience, merging ideas inspired by video games with modern tabletop board games. I would like to welcome designer Marcin Welnicki to Monkeys with Fire.
Hello, thank you for having me for another time. I think it's like we've talked like what 3 or 4 times over the course of the years. So thank you for having me.
As we say, you're very, very welcome, because every time you come onto the channel, you amaze us with yet more details, more lavish miniatures, more amazing gameplay. But tonight's the night. We're going to get all the details from you. Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to reveal, I think, and yeah, we were getting close to the release date, so everything is gonna be revealed in the next 2 weeks. So it's very exciting stuff, because what we've shown so far is just the tip of the iceberg of what we are doing with the game. So very excited.
Okay, so then, first and foremost, let's just reconfirm the Kickstarter launch date is
September 9th, and I think it's gonna be 3 p.m. Pacific daytime. Yeah.
Why don't we just, again, for anybody new who doesn't know what Aeon Trespass Odyssey is going to be on the 9th of September, give me the 2-minute elevator pitch.
The 20-minute elevator pitch. Yeah, so Aeon Trespass Odyssey is a massive campaign board game, which mixes up intense battles, tactical battles with 4v1 with monsters controlled by a sophisticated AI system, and the voyage, the titular Odyssey, where you travel around Crete, meet new people, kill them, or or make friends with them. You go on adventures, you gather resources, you research new technology. It's like an all-encompassing adventure for you, and we're very excited to use very innovative gameplay mechanics. One of which is the inherited combat paradigm, which basically means that the longer you fight or the closer you are to death, the more powerful you become.
We'll come to that in more detail. Don't tease them too much just yet.
Sure. And on the other side of the spectrum, on the narrative side of the spectrum, we have a really in-depth story, the major story that touches on I think important themes, but it's also really mechanically involved. Like, there's a lot of decisions you make, and we have some special systems to keep tabs on those decisions, so you really see that you're influencing the world, and that your decisions are making a difference, for better or worse.
So how does the game play? So from what I understand, Aeon Trespass encompasses 3 different gameplays: the strategic, the narrative, and the tactical.
Yes, and those three spheres, let's say, or gameplay types, really lead into each other. So it's you have a game structure, like you start in the voyage phase. This is the part of the game where you travel around the map.
So is this the strategic element, yeah?
Yes. So you're traveling around the world, gathering resources, meeting new people, encountering a lot of stuff. We'll get into that later. And whenever you find an adventure hub or you reach a story milestone from the main story, you launch into an adventure. These adventures are structured similarly to Choose Your Own Adventures books, with short stories, short paragraphs to keep you interested, and a lot of decisions along the way. So there's a lot of text. So you'll see in the prelude that even this demo version of the game that we're sending out to reviewers is chock full of story. And between those two elements, you may encounter the primordials. Sometimes you encounter them because of some stuff you did. Sometimes it's determined by the story. Sometimes it's determined by your economic decisions. Either way, you'll cyclically fight these monsters. You switch to the second board, the secondary board, the battle board, and there your characters, your Argonauts, inhabit the bodies of the Titans. This is a setup, something like biological mechs, something like Neon Genesis Evangelion or Pacific Rim, in that you control the Titans. That way, you go in there, you are 4v1, so there's 4 Titans, 1 Primordial. And the Primordial is stronger than you, so you need all the help you can get. And you battle it out. So that's basically it. The fun thing for us is that, again, all those 3 different gameplay elements, one, they feed into each other. So, for example, this is like a really in detail, in-depth example. The Hecaton, the first monster you encounter in the game, whenever he's not busy fighting you, like you're on the battlefield, but you're not keeping pressure, you're not putting pressure on him. Whenever he gets bored, he starts tossing rocks or parts of ruins at your ship, at the Argo. And that can really, like, you can lose the ship during the battle, even if the ship isn't taking part directly in the battle. On the other hand, when you defeat the monster, you defeat the Hecaton Primordial, you evolve, not evolve, you explore the story around this particular creature. So, and this is a part of the main story, in that it gives you more insight into what's happening in the campaign, but it's a story of its own. So there's like a side quest to it, which you can follow. Which leads me to the second part of the merging of those 3 gameplay types, is that each gameplay element can spring from another gameplay element. There is, again, as I said before, there is a structure. You're traveling around the map during the voyage phase. Whenever you encounter an adventure hub or other triggers that are tied to adventures, you go on an adventure. And whenever you find yourself meeting a primordial, you have to battle it. However, there are many unique moments where you can launch from one to the other. One is, for example, you can find monster eggs, and you can research them. And when you do, you'll be immediately brought into a battle with something. I'm not giving spoilers to that, but this is one of the aspects of adventure that we really found lacking in many games, is the surprise element. So there's a surprise, there's exploration at every corner. You need to be on your toes the whole time, because you never know what can happen. You need to be careful and make your decisions with care.
Right, okay. I'm going to just wind back things just a little
Sure.
bit because we went through so much great stuff there. So you talk about you called it the sort of vessel sort of phase. I've got it here. It's got this strategic scale of the game. So it's this explorable tile-based map. So tell me more about that, because I had the impression that the map originally was going to be a sort of static based map.
Well, we like initially we were thinking about the static map, but that really didn't lend itself to the kind of gameplay we wanted, to exploration. So early on, we switched to moving around explorable tiles, and we never looked back. And yeah, so this is like a huge element of the game, which we haven't talked about a lot up to this point. So maybe I'll just reach into my
goodies.
Yeah, because again I've got the this is the first. I showed it last time, but this time it's more heavier.
It's full of stuff.
Yeah, so this is not the game box. This is the box for the demo only, because the game wouldn't fit inside. We're also transporting the miniatures safely, so this is the second box we're sending out. And actually we've weighed the prelude today, and all the elements, the miniatures, the cardboard elements, the dice, etc., it all came up to more than 4 kilos.
Wow.
So I've got here is the map tiles.
Okay, let's take a look.
Yeah.
So how does the exploring of the map occur? I'm getting a sort of Carcassonne feeling a little bit from these.
Well, it's a bit Carcassonne, it's a bit Seventh Continent, it's a bit roguelike, because again, most of the map is set. So if you play the game a couple of times, you'll generally know what's where. So you'll generally know where to find some things. But some of the tiles are interchangeable, so the map can change between playthroughs, and it can also change based on your decisions in game, or other events in game that are tied to your progression. So each tile, as you see, has a number on the back. They have also numbers on the sides, and this just informs you what type of what tile goes where. So this is very basic stuff. Whenever you move and you don't have the tile, you take the tile and put it on the map. You move the ship, and there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know if you see it. This one only has the progress symbol, but there's other stuff that goes on there. Some of them, let me check. Yeah, some of them have more than one symbol. Each one of these represents a thing that's going to happen. Most of them are only going to happen once, so this forces you to explore the game, explore the map, not just move around in a circle. Some of them, mostly the bad stuff, is going to happen each time you move into a tile. So when you're creating the map, exploring the region, you're starting to notice patterns of, let's say, the patterns of your enemies or the patterns of your adversaries, in that there's a logical sense to how those tiles or those symbols are placed. This is a symbol for an adventure hub. This is actually a generic adventure hub. There are unique adventure hub symbols, and these take you to specific adventure hubs. And this is one of the ways we are trying to meet halfway between a narrative experience and a emergent gameplay experience, in that the stories that we tell are written, our narratives. So again, we really wanted to put a lot of emphasis on that part of the game, because what we feel is that a lot of board games that do narrative, they really do lip service to them, and those stories more often than not are really shallow. So we wanted to avoid that. We wanted to have meaty stories, but then again we wanted to have player choice, so there's a lot of freedom in those adventures, how you approach them, and the outcome can change, and it can impact the main story or the whole game for the rest of the game. But on the other hand, we wanted to have those hubs interchangeable. So again, we don't talk about it yet, but we've got systems in place that allow you to like curate the experience, that make some of those hubs available to you at certain points of the game. But you will never see all of them, and they may change based on your decisions. Yeah.
Okay. So I think you've nicely dovetailed here into the sort of second major component to the game, which of course is the narrative. You've sort of described that you've written a small novel worth of literature to accompany this game. So what I'm seeing here is that so the Aeon Trespass Odyssey utilizes dynamic probabilities, a choice chain system.
Yeah, people are always giving us hard time about those those lofty names.
Yeah.
But we use them just for shorthand until we explain those mechanics. So that dynamic probability just means that there really aren't bad choices in the game, and I don't mean that like there's all of them are great. It's not that. I'm just saying that there is you're not going through the story in a trial and error manner. It's that again, a lot of choose your own adventure games feature dead end scenarios. Like after you've chosen your path, you learn that there was a right way to go about it, and you didn't choose it, so you may be dead, or you must backtrack, etc., etc. So we wanted to avoid this. So we created a system that takes account of a lot of your decisions. This is what we call a choice matrix, which is basically a table. You put your choices in, you mark them. Sometimes they can open up new ways to go about things, or the other way around. Sometimes what you've done will make it impossible for you to make certain decisions. But other times those choices will influence the outcome, but will not guarantee it. So recently we've talked with one of Polish board game sites, and I've given the example of meeting a band of Hornsworn. They are the remnants of Theseus rebels from the Cretan Civil War. And you meet them, and they seem friendly, but there's rumor that they may have turned to banditry. And you must make a choice, it seems like a simple choice. You may either help them with what they want your help with, or you may turn them to the Horned Guard, which are the main authority on the island on Crete. And the truth of if they are bandits or not isn't set in stone. Like, this is a thing that you'll be rolling for. So if you make the decision like without any other influence, it might be even 50-50. So you really don't know. You must make a choice. But a lot of your experiences before that may influence this. So if you've seen the Hornsworn behaving inappropriately before, this may influence the outcome in favor of them really being bandits. On the other hand, if you've seen them being charitable or honorable, that may sway this whole situation in the other way. But again, this is not a guarantee. So, like in life, you're making a decision, and you never know 100% what can happen. Other times, you may have done something in the game that will make the tedious warriors attack you on sight, which doesn't actually mean they're bandits automatically, but maybe you've done something wrong, and you'll learn about their allegiance later. So it all lends itself to a kind of narrative that really puts in the forefront two things, like the pragmatic needs of your crew, of your characters, because a lot of the choices will tax you in some way, and on the other, the narrative elements of the story of who you want to be as players.
Right. Wow, that sounds great. While you've been talking, we've had a really good question from Mutabor, so welcome to the channel. Mutabor is asking, what is the main goal of the game? Is it killing a main boss or something else?
So, again, we want to structure this story as a real narrative, and in this case more as a book narrative or a TV series narrative rather than a movie. So there's no 3-act structure. It's more episodic. So your goals may change. Like, let's say this is just mild spoilers for the beginning of the first campaign. There's 3 in the game. So you arrive on Crete. There's an internal struggle between the ruling family, which are really, let's say, not really good rulers, and the new cult that is turning its adulation to the labyrinth, because of, like, in the whole setting of Aeon Trespass, the Olympian gods are dead. And a lot of people are looking for something to replace them. So on Crete, people are starting to worship the labyrinth, and there's a whole philosophy to that. And you're thrown between those two sides. But you, as the players or as the crew of the Argo, your immediate goal for that scenario is, our ship is damaged. We are looking for specific parts to replace them and sail away, sail farther. But Argo is a grand ship of really intricate design. It's ahead of its time. So there's not really many places that could fix it. And one of those places, or in this case people, is Daedalus. Daedalus isn't present on the island when you arrive, but the ruling family has access to his workshop vault. So this is like the basic setup. You arrive at this island. What you want to really do is just gain those parts to move on, but you get involved in this struggle, and when as the story unfolds, your goals change. Mechanically speaking, there's always a goal card, we call them story cards, that tell you your immediate mechanical goal that you need to achieve to move the story further along. And as in all good stories, there either is a villain that you must defeat, either in combat or in some other way that we don't talk about, or there's a crisis that you need to avert. So yeah, I know that's really broad strokes, but we don't want to spoil things.
Right. Amberdon is asking, how much does the game change each time you replay it?
Well, a lot of that is we want to keep under wraps, but again, there's certain things that can influence your subsequent playthroughs. Minor things that can even starting a new playthrough is actually going to change something. But there are also larger points that can make your game harder or easier. There's one fun thing that we've put in the prelude is that there's one small decision that you make along the way that seems inconsequential, and it is for this campaign, but it's really important. Like it's basically a secret hard mode for the next campaign.
Right.
So again, you may not feel like you know this is a choice that you need to make, and it may have consequences down the road, but it's not that tied to what you're dealing with now. But then it will come back to you or haunt you, or you're gonna see how that unfolds. But again, we need to strike a balance between changing stuff between playthroughs and being true to a story, because again, we want to tell stories that are about something and that they have themes. So we really don't want to like go all out on those changes. But having that said, there is a fun thing that you'll start to understand while you're going through the game, as there's a lot of mystery involving the Argonauts, and the Titans, and that may really change how you play the game on subsequent playthroughs.
Okay. So then, the last stage was we had strategic, we had narrative, and then we have the tactical. So this is going to be the combat, isn't it?
Yes. This is the combat. We've got a really robust combat system, the Triskelion system. We've recently started to talk about it. So again, we really wanted to make our combat cinematic in a way, to make those battles really exciting for the players. And we found out that in many games, battles or combat can turn anticlimactic because most games, if not all, limit your choices the farther you get into the combat, and they do it in a manner, in a lot of ways. Like, I'm not saying that they're doing it on purpose, but like stacking negative modifiers, or having your character be weaker when he's wounded. All those things together make the game a bit snowbally. Like if you're good at killing monsters, or if the start of the combat goes well, in most cases it'll go well for the whole battle, and the inverse is true also. So we wanted to challenge that with our combat system and make a game where you like heroes in the stories we love, that they become more determined, stronger when they become wounded or they are close to death. And the whole battle system is based around this concept. We're using a special dial. I think, that's me. Yeah. So we're using these special dials. This is a prototype, obviously, which track 3 of your main stats: rage, danger, and fate.
So this is the Triskelion, yes? Yeah,
this is the Triskelion. And these stats are shared between your Argonaut and your Titan. And again, this is one of the, like, we're talking about combat, but the fun thing about it is that while you're making narrative decisions during adventures, you're also modifying the Triskelion. So in a way, you can, like, if you want to influence the adventures more, it'll have a feedback effect on your gameplay during the battles. So rage is an offensive stat. It goes up whenever you it goes up whenever you attack a primordial. Danger is in some way an opposite, because it goes up whenever you are attacked by the primordial. And fate is a more mysterious stat that you more often than not will raise voluntarily to either influence your rolls or other outcomes, or use special abilities and some other stuff we still haven't talked about. But the fun thing is that these are not just meaningless numbers. Whenever you attack, you raise your rage, and that means that you get access to more offensive, more powerful abilities. And so yeah, so this is how a typical Titan sheet looks like. And so you see, there's only two stats here that like normal stats. This one is movement. This one is your basic attack power in Kratos or power dice. You've got some abilities here, and you've got your tables, the danger table and the Kratos table. And the Kratos table is the one you're using when you attacking primordials. And it's like a fun way of escalating your power. Each time you raise your rage level, you get access to more abilities. So at rage level 3, you'll get access to here. But they also stack, so you get access to everything that was before it. And these are really fun abilities. Like there's some abilities that just give you raw power, but more often than not, they really modify the way you attack. Like you can push the monster further, or vault over it, and this is one of the other fun aspect of the game. You can leave what we call Kratos tokens, and these tokens are used in what we call hard co-op abilities. So stop me if I'm getting too technical with it.
No. So tell us a little bit more about what are the sort of abilities you get through your rage then on the Kratos table.
Yeah. So again, there's a lot of those. Like again, you can push the monster or knock it back. These are two different effects. You can vault over it. You can sidestep to attack and then get back. You can leave opening tokens or break tokens. You get 3 rolls. You can leave critical tokens that will allow other players to make critical attacks easier. So what is fun about this is that again you're leaving. A lot of those allow you to leave tokens, and these tokens are not used by you. So you attack. Your attack fared good or bad, like you've wounded the primordial or not. But at the end of the attack, there's a phase where you leave something for the other players. Because we really thought about it, and we think that co-op games are not that much co-op. Like we wanted more teamwork on the side of players, and we thought about this system that really I think highlights how it would be in a fight. So to give you an example, you may have a Titan that's using a very hard-hitting weapon, like a Great Tree Club. It uses black power dice, which are a lot better than red power dice, obviously. And but it's got only you've got only a small window to attack. You've got a lower chance to hit the primordial, and the weapon is really cumbersome. So what you do is you want to have someone on your team make an opening for you to lower the difficulty of you making that attack. So again, when you're attacking the primordial, you're not always thinking about can I damage it or not, but also what can I do to make my teammates do better on their turns. And this what I've just told you is just the basic example of this system, because there are more sophisticated ways of using it. Like there are creatures that are impenetrable from one side or another, and you need to taunt them to turn them so they are open to like, because again there are types of difficulty, and some monsters have impenetrable shells which make them impervious to all attacks unless you do a specific thing. So this is like a major part of this combat system, because again, when you tie it with the Triskelion Rage, which goes to 9, so you can potentially make 9 attacks during a battle, and most primordials have 10 or more wounds. This means that more often than not you need to rely on more than one player. Like you can just put all the best stuff on one player and on one Titan and have him win the battle. You need to think tactically, and this is even enforced further with the introduction of a priority target. So the primordial knows who is the most dangerous Titan on the player's team. It's the one that has the highest rage, obviously, because he's got all those awesome abilities. So the player, or the Titan that has the highest level of rage, gets the token automatically, and he's the target of more attacks or more dangerous or deadly attacks. So it may be wise to try to juggle this priority target token, so the monster doesn't focus on this Titan solely.
So Amberden asks a very good question here. Does rage come with a cost or penalty? And I'm going to tack on to the end of that, because you're talking about taking your rage up to 9.
Yeah.
But we always want to take it up to 10, don't we?
Well, yeah. So one of the penalties, or one of the costs, is that priority target token, which I talked about, because it really makes you like a lot of the times when players aren't careful, the Titan that gets the most angry, the most that raises the rage level the most, is the one to die the quickest. Because again, the monster will focus on it. The other drawback, and I think it's a major drawback, is that when you go above 9, you lose control of the Titan. Because if you saw our Titan art, you can notice that each Titan has a helmet. They are really fancy looking helmets. And these helmets are called anti-Kratos helmets, and they keep those Titans in check and allow you to control them. So the higher the rage, the more you lose control of the Titan. And when you reach 9+, you lose completely, and the Titan berserks, and you lose control of it. This is a state that we treat like losing a Titan. So basically you die if you go above rage 9. And that's not all, because there's also another aspect we haven't talked about yet, because it's not as common as this, but there are what we call Kratos cards and Kratos saves. And sometimes Primordial or other events may influence the Titan in such a way that you temporarily lose control of the Titan. So whenever this happens, you need to make a Kratos save, and the save's difficulty is your rage level. So the higher the rage, the more difficult the test. And if you fail the test, you'll draw a Kratos card, which is a really nasty card. Which, if when you draw your first Kratos card, you'll wish that your Titan just died, because those cards can be potentially more dangerous to you or to the team than just simply dying. This is because a lot of you may not know. You are playing an Argonaut controlling a Titan. So whenever, like, the Titan deaths are more common, Argonaut deaths are less common. Whenever a Titan dies on the battlefield, your character lives on. In most cases, because there are some trauma cards that complicate this stuff. But so losing a Titan is not the end of the world, though it's a costly loss, but one you can recover from. Losing an Argonaut is a monumental event during the campaign, and it's treated as such. So there's special stuff going on each time an Argonaut dies.
All right, so let's move on then from the sort of still within the Triskelion. So the danger.
Yeah, can you believe we just talked about one part of it? Yeah, so danger is also fun because, as I said, basically whenever the primordial attacks you, it raises your danger, but by a set amount. The more dangerous or deadly the attack, the more danger it raises. And after each hit, you consult a different table. This is your danger table. This is your danger value. So each of these corresponds to a different deck. The decks vary in the effects they give. But generally the minor trauma are more easily shaken off, while the grave trauma can result in your death more often than other types. So whenever you are hit, you raise your danger level, you check which type of card you draw the card. And the card says what happens, because we're not using a hit point system or a wound system. Those trauma cards are basically effects. Some of them may linger for a bit, but generally they are one-time immediate effects. And the fun thing is that they're not always negative, because like in the fun stories we like, sometimes when you get hit, you just get more angry or you get offended. Or you see something like you see that your enemy exposed himself or itself, and you see its weak point, etc., etc. So again, getting hit isn't always that bad, though there is always a chance of dying. And the other fun thing is that a lot of your abilities, like Rush here or 1 in a million, they get activated at higher danger levels. So, and this also is true for abilities that come from other sources than the Titan card, like your Mnemos cards. No, I think this interview will last for 6 hours because, again, everything leads into other things.
Well, so, we've got to let people have something to discover when they open the game. So we're just teasing the main part.
So basically, the higher your danger level, the more abilities you unlock from various sources. So getting hit a bit is actually encouraged. You can die. This is like a calculated risk, but you need to raise your danger level to perform more awesome moves.
Is it connected, and I hope I'm getting this right, with the danger element? If you get really high in the danger, does something happen?
Again, when you go to above 9 of danger, you draw a special trauma card that's called an obol, and there's only at the start of the game there's only 2 obol cards. One says you live, and the other says you died. So at that point, you've got a 50-50 chance of dying. However, you can stay at this state as long as luck stays with you, which is really a fun way of playing, because a lot of abilities force you to take danger. Like this one, the 1 in a million, actually forces you to raise your. It's got a high activation level because it's activated at 8 danger, and it also raises your danger level. So it's a fun way to just dance on that edge of death. There are fun things we do with gear and with abilities and with specific titans that really encourage you to get to that state. There are other things that can happen. I know what you're talking about.
Oh, do you? Good. Okay, I'm glad I am.
I don't want to talk about that.
No, but it was good. It's good. It's good.
No, I want that one to be.
So all I can say, guys, I read something today during my lunch break which blew my mind, and Marcin's not going to tell us, is he? But I can guarantee that once you learn about this, you are going to go, OMG, that was brilliant. So we'll answer some questions that came through. So, Amberden, does getting hit create a chance for rage to increase uncontrollably? I know that when I get hit, I tend to get mad.
Yes. There are certain trauma cards or trauma cards that actually do just that. That the only thing that the primordial did was to enrage you, and you gain rage. So yeah,
okay,
absolutely. There are actually this is also a because there's a lot of stuff. I don't know how we're gonna do the gameplay, because we're gonna again record a whole day of material. Because the sequence of the battle is fixed. So there's the primordial turn, then there's the titan turns, and you can go whichever order you like, because that way you can approach the battle more tactically. However, you can do things outside, or the monster also can do things outside of the normal structure. And one of those things is, for example, there's a trauma card that's called Insulted, which actually just enrages you in a specific way that you just, if you're in range, you can make an immediate attack. So you just break the chain, the structure of the primordial attack, and you make a counter attack. And there's also a lot of fun stuff we do with this. Like there's certain monsters, certain primordials that are actually almost impossible to hit outside of this small window of counterattack. So those creatures force you to develop new strategies that focus on this part of the game.
Mutabor has asked, what about the difficulty of the game? Can you lose a game somewhere during a campaign, or are you just going through scenarios with some penalties to end of the game?
No, so the penalty, like the lose conditions, are really mechanical. So there's a lot. I can tell you some of them, like the destruction of the Argo, either through losing your hull or losing all your crew, can result in a campaign end. Running out of time, because you are on a timer. Like it's not a really strict timer, but there is a timer in the game. So you must choose at some point you must choose your approach wisely, and you won't see everything during the campaign. You will lose the game if you go into a battle and you have no titans left. Like if even, like, because again, you can lose titans. There are ways to get more of them, or better versions of them. However, there may be times that you will have less than 4 titans, which means that you must go into battle with less than 4 titans. And you can do it. You can even go 1 versus the primordial. It's gonna be a tough fight, but you can do it. However, if you go into a battle without titans, the game immediately ends, because this means the primordial got to Argo, and a lot of the primordials are really interested in what's inside the Argo. What else? There's a similar mechanic to the story cards. So again, mentioned before, you've got story cards that dictate what are your goals at any given moment. But there are also cards, we call them Doom cards, that say what your enemies or what the villain of the campaign is doing, and they've got plots of their own. So even if you're not doing anything, your enemies or your adversaries are trying to fulfill their own plans. So if you're not careful, they may do it, and then the game ends. So those are basically like we are not doing. We don't like the approach of doing a story narrative end to a campaign. Like you chose poorly. You didn't guess what the author of the story wanted you to choose, so you lose. No, you lose more of like 95% of the time. You lose because of a mechanical thing in the game. Because it's again, each battle is there's a structure to the battle. Like you've got a basic scenario set up to the battle, but it's mostly to set up terrain and some other stuff. Again, we're not going into today. However, these are not narrative battle scenarios. There are some narrative battles during the campaign which force you to have them, but you can still lose them. If you lose a battle, you move on. Depending on how you lost the battle, it may be more difficult for you to go on or less, but the game does go on and you can still win the campaign.
Okay. Just the Inner Geek is asking, so Titan minis are not meant to represent specific Titans, they are more like narrative sculpts then?
Yeah, so I'm going to repeat myself that we're not talking about some of this stuff, but so we didn't want to make the game very miniature heavy. Like we are focusing on the gameplay, not a lot of plastic. So we chose our minis carefully, and the Titan mini can and will most of the time represent a Titan of this class. So for example, that's why all the Titans after the initial 4 Titans don't have names. They've got something like classes, like the Earth Shaker, the Logic Breaker, etc. These are more of a more descriptive terms of what the Titan does than what he or she is. However, you can gain access to unique Titans during the game. Like this is something also that you can explore. So you can have named Titans, and then they will represent that exact mini that you have.
Okay, excellent. So let's just finish up then, because I've got another question, but I think this will work nicely. So the final element on the Triskelion was fate.
Yes, and fate is fun because fate is the stat that you will be raising voluntarily, because it's your best chance to mitigate luck. So it grants rerolls to your dice. That's a basic ability you get from it, and it also allows you to use some powerful abilities and some powerful gear. So you will want to use fate often. However, again, as with all of those stats, there's a caveat to that, and there's actually 2 here. So the first one is like with danger and rage. When you go over 9, something bad can happen. You draw a Moiros card, which is like a mirror opposite of the Kratos cards for rage. So it's also a bad thing that's happening, because because fate represents you trying to bend your destiny. So whenever you use fate to re-roll a die roll and you succeed, it's like you've just changed, like you were meant to get hit or not hit the primordial. You influence that outcome. However, the destiny doesn't like to be tampered with, so when you go over 9, something bad happens. This is represented by those Moiros cards. But the fun thing is that Moiros cards are less focused on you, though they still can hurt you personally. But the effects of a Moiros card can more often than not impact on your compatriots, on your other players in the game, on the Argo, or on the story. So whenever you go over 9, the effect may not be as the negative effect may not be as immediate as getting killed, but it may be equally as nasty, just in a different way. And the other thing about fate is that the primordials also take your fate into account. So a lot of primordial attacks have a fate check, let's say, and when the primordial attacks you, and you go through his AI card, you may find that depending on your fate level, some things may be different or stronger. So, for example, this is the basic, the simplest example. An attack may do more, may raise your danger more if your fate is 3 or more. So, again, there's an advantage of not using fate because you won't have to face those stronger effects. But then again, you may not be able to use some of the more powerful stuff. So that's a trade-off.
Okay, so then that leads me on to Amberden's question. Is there any mechanic to reduce rage? Because of course we're raging like the Red Hulk at the moment, like exhaustion or drain effects.
Yes. There's several actually. There are several things you can do, but though they are tied to specific. Like there's no inherent way to do that. Like those stats always go up. You can have abilities again from the Mnemos experience cards that can do that. Some gear can do that, and some Argo abilities can do that. Well, Argo abilities are also a thing that I think is awesome. Is that the Argo isn't a part of the battle, but it can influence it in a number of ways. You can have special cards that the Argo uses to affect the battle. One of them is to reduce someone's rage, but there's also a card that actually enrages you. Like there's an artificial Kratos reaction card. It's called Forced Kratos reaction card, which just raises your rage by 1. And this is one of the fun things, like because again you need to be careful how your stats are raised between all your teammates, and there may be situations that like for example one of the titans is knocked back so much that he's out of the battle for a turn because he needs to catch up, and that may mean that he'll be lagging for the rest of the game. So like he'll be just that one rage point short of being effective. So to counter that, you may take with you the Argo ability of Forced Kratos reaction to just raise his rage level artificially. And there's a lot of more Argo abilities in the game. Like you can have a I'm gonna spoil everything.
Keep going. It's all
there's
good.
really fun stuff. Like there's escalating stuff. Like you start with those small buffs and debuffs, but you can have a more direct impact as Argo than that.
Okay. Right. So one thing you did mention that we haven't actually gone into any real detail on is the Memnos cards. Memories, isn't it?
The Memos cards, actually, but I think we maybe we'll change them to just memory cards because, again, we don't want to make it too difficult for people to move through the nomenclature of the game. They are basically your lost memories because as you play an Argonaut who's been just awakened from something like a cryogenic sleep, and you don't really remember your life before that. You've got just vague recollections of what happened. And these vague recollections are represented by the Mnemos cards, which are, again, there's a bit of everything on that card. There's a bit of story that's like a story hook because it doesn't tell you exactly what happened, just starts the story. There's an ability which comes from that memory. And there's a chain of nodes. These nodes are like experience points. Most of the Mnemo's abilities get stronger the more experience you've unlocked for that memory. And when you reach the end of the chain, you reach what we call a breakthrough event. And that's a story event that takes into account many things during the game. So you're not really you're never really sure what the story will be about, just that it will be about your lost memory. And that breakthrough event may go in many different ways. Sometimes you lose the initial memory and replace it with a more vivid memory. Sometimes you just gain a new memory, etc., etc. And this is our experience system, basically. So you gain abilities and skills. Like there's skills like courage, endurance, wisdom. These skills are tied to your memories. So the more memories you accumulate, the more skill points and more abilities you have. And even if a memory leaves you or is replaced by another, something from that memory will linger on in you, and you'll have a permanent bonus that you'll keep to the end of your life, basically. And this is our experience system for the characters. We're really excited about, because it's not a combat experience system. Like there are certain things you can do in combat that will gain you experience to those Mnemo's nodes. But a lot of the experience is gained during adventures. We'll talk about that, I think, at a later date. But again, the adventures and the choices you make will influence how much experience and who gets it, basically. So you'll have to juggle, as I said before, you have to juggle your personal gain with the greater good of the crew, etc.
So I hope I get your name correct here. Is it G Parali 82? Welcome to the channel, first and foremost.
Hi.
So do opening and break tokens get used up by abilities? Do they reset end of round? Does their position matter, or do you just put them in a central pool by the board? I'm thinking that's about 4 questions, so I mean, cramming in as many as possible here.
I'll answer some of that. The simplest way of using opening or break tokens, these are the basic Kratos tokens, is to actually put them in the active Kratos pool. So yeah, there's a pool, you put them here, and the next player or Titan can use them. There are other things that use those tokens as charges. So you may use that, like let's say a Titan before you left, to opening tokens, which will make attacking the primordial that much easier. But maybe you've got an ability that actually requires to opening tokens to do something else entirely, and you just take that opportunity. Yeah. So.
Okay.
So I hope this satisfies you. Again, because I don't want to go into specific detail of every of those interactions, mostly because I want some of this stuff to be a surprise to you guys. So, but yes, we've thought about this system really hard. So yeah.
Do you have a plan for making the rules available to?
Yeah. Well, again, this is something I can show you, because I know that sometimes when you work on a prototype, you've got just a blank sheet of paper with some rules written on it. But we did actually put together a rule book for the Prelude. So let me check. It's 38 pages long. So we've got a rule book with pictures and with game content. So we might put it. I don't think that there's any reason why we shouldn't. We'll just have to modify it, because again, there's a components list which is tied to the Prelude, and you wouldn't want people to think that this is the final game components list. what do we have here? We've got, yeah, it's here. Yeah, so here we've got, wait, the second rule book we have is the Learn to Play rule book, which, as you can see, is a bit story and a bit mechanics, and let me there's a lot of stuff here. It's broken up by days, so the first few days you journey around Crete are really guided, so you get the hang of things. And here's your first there's your first adventure set also. And finally, there's the third book that we've prepared, and this is the storybook for the prelude. We have to use a smaller font to fit everything in. And here you can see the main story and several of the adventure hubs available to you during the prelude.
Okay, hang on a second. Bring that storybook back. Okay, I want you to flick through the pages, right? Randomly, just stop at a page somewhere.
Sure.
Right. Find a paragraph that doesn't give any spoilers, and just read us a token paragraph.
Well, these are really long paragraphs.
Oh, are they? Find a small one.
Every of it, but this one is really fun. So the siren, now also missing an arm, reels from the strike and with a fearful shriek hides in its shell. Gain 1 rage. So this means that the person that did that will raise their rage level during the adventure. And it also says mark D7. And this is the choice matrix I was talking about. So there's a page that you have that you will note this, and this may influence an adventure later on.
Ooh, so we got sirens in the game. Ah, interesting.
Yeah, nothing.
Eric Laz, welcome to the channel. This game looks wonderful. Love the tiles and the minis. Do I need to take out a mortgage to get this?
No. We still haven't announced the price yet, but it's gonna be. We know this for a fact. The core game will cost less than $150 US. For the, I don't know if you like. I do have this also. So yeah. So this is. I don't know if you can.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hold it there. There you go.
Yeah. So this is our initial pitch to you. This is the things that go to the core game regardless of any stretch goals or other stuff. So there's a lot of stuff.
So Sarah was saying that she's quite partial, obviously, to the nymphs. Super Sarah did an awesome job on painting up the engine and the depths nymph as part of the Simeon Collective. So then Sty Fen is saying, yeah, the nymphs are really pretty. Kevlar, welcome to the stream.
Hi, Kevlar.
When starting the second or third cycle, do you begin with everything you finished with in the previous cycle?
So this is one of the challenges we had to face early on. Is that again we want to have that progression between the campaigns, but we also don't want to. If we added everything on top of everything, it would at one point it would become too cumbersome to test the mechanics. There would be too many variables to keep track of. Without revealing much, you do take everything from one campaign to another, though the power level of the campaign somewhat rises. So not everything may be as effective as it was in the previous campaign. There are ways also to get everything or a lot of what you had up to the standards of the new campaign, but it's a costly procedure. So you start the campaign, the new campaign, with what you had in the previous campaign, but there's a need to do the new stuff. There's a need to research. There's a need to find the ways to face the primordials of this cycle, which are different than the ones from the previous one.
Hopefully I get the name right, but Kyofu, welcome to the channel.
Hi.
Asking, do you have a clearer pic of that big rock thing next to the Temenos in the content pic? I love the description, a big rock thing.
I do. I do. I've got a model of it, actually. I won't show it to you, but I do have it.
Oh, you're getting bad now.
Well, we'll be revealing that monster later on. But I can tell you that monster is. We've mentioned that monster before, and it's the Chimera. It's our Chimera.
Okay, all right, we got a name. We got a name.
Yeah, you got a name, and if you're wondering how a Chimera would look like that, then stay tuned.
So the minis within the game, I think I know the answer to this, but we'll ask it anyway. Will they be pre-assembled?
Yeah, this is this is actually a more complicated and interesting question, which we will answer next week probably, because we are doing something fun with our miniatures that I think hasn't been done before in the space of board games. So I would leave it at that.
So hopefully I get the name right again. I'm sure is it Mannequin? I'm going to go with that. But welcome. There are a lot of pages with rules in the rule book just for the prelude. I can only assume that there'll be even more in the core game. Aren't you scared a bit that it might be too much and too many rules for one game?
No, yes and no. Well, there will be more rules, but again, the Prelude was built in such a way to offer you a broad approach to all of the game's mechanics. So the rules have to cover everything that you do. So it's again, because it's like with the cards that we're putting. There's 300. Like the Prelude is around not 10%, I think, of the whole game, but it's got 370 cards in it. That's because a lot of those cards are base cards that you use in different different times during the game. So we need to have them to have the whole experience of the game. Like we need to have cards for this for each trauma deck in the game, and a lot of the time other things will just modify those decks. Not like there are monsters that introduce their own decks, but the baseline for those decks is here. So there's a lot of rules, but there's not going to be that much more rules in the final game. There may be specific rules for specific effects or that this particular primordial does, but the basics of playing the game will not change drastically from what you can experience from the Prelude.
Excellent. There we go. Right then, well, thank you so much, Mark, for all your time.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Everybody in the chat, exclamation clap, exclamation fantastic. Please show your appreciation for Marcin this evening, for talking to us about Aeon Trespass Odyssey.
Thank you guys for the questions. Right, it's fun. Like I knew what I wanted to talk about, but we took I think a few fun detours, and we've talked about some stuff that I didn't expect we'd talk about today. So I hope everyone is satisfied with the review.
Well, yes,
interview.
Yes, no. Muta Boy saying thanks, very excited about this project. Paranoid
Likewise.
saying fantastic.
Thank you.
So that being the case, when the Kickstarter launches on the 9th of September, do you reckon we can get you back on in to give us a bit of an update in September time?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm always available, and again, we try to be really communicative, and we have to be in touch with our backers. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all right then. So we will arrange that. So midway to near the end of the campaign, then we will catch up again. We will see how things have been going, and you can tell us some of the highlights.
Yeah, it's highlights, low points.
No, there's no low points. There's no low points.
The low point is the lack of sleep for me. That's already started. So yeah, but also maybe some exciting stuff like the stuff we didn't talk about today. We will be able to talk about it at that point. So
yes, exactly. Yes. Right then, Marcin. Thank you so much.
Again, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure, and see you soon.
Okay, you take care. We'll see you very soon.
Bye.
Bye for now then. And there we go then, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed that exclusive interview. Take care and goodbye for now.